just use those.
Okay, great. Hi everyone, always good to be just before lunch. I think we've got one more topic for me. So you've met one of my colleagues, Vincent, from the Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development, or ex-AG, but now combined with Fisheries and Regional Development. And also Margaret Uloth is our plant pathologist in our other group. So we have entomologists, plant pathologists, fisheries officers, and compliance officers in our biosecurity group. So if you guys ever need any questions answered, that's the group that we would direct you to. So I'm just going to run through very quickly what MyPestGuide is about. Vincent's already sort of given you a brief introduction, how to use it, how to take good photos, how to make reports online if you don't have that facility, and where and when to use it. So we developed the MyPestGuide surveillance system, hopefully to improve the overall surveillance and diagnostics in Western Australia, and we've actually expanded that across into the other jurisdictions now. We want to also improve the knowledge and awareness on general biodiversity and biosecurity, and we also want to prepare our general public as well as our state and local governments for emergency incidents and response. So the surveillance system in a nutshell, people can download our applications. They can use the application to report any observation that comes into our MyPestGuide system. We have a bunch of experts that sit behind the administration portal, and those can include general practitioners who have expert skills and abilities in an area where they might be retired. They might be students who are expert because that's what they're working on for their PhD, but they could also be local government workers, state workers. We also have contacts in international areas that we draw on as well, and they sit behind the scenes to help with the diagnosis and evaluation of the reports that come through. So when you first send a report, we also have the triage officers in entomology, pathology, weeds management, animals area, and we will redirect your reports to the right people, hopefully in the right time, to be able to provide that feedback as quickly as possible. An expert will identify those kind of reports of any biosecurity concern, and they will forward it to another contact for seconds of opinion, or if they're not sure of something, we can actually ask them to provide samples or for further reporting if we're a bit questioning as to the reports that have come in. So we can send the reports externally, like I've said, but generally the systems are project-based, but we have a jurisdictional-based or state-based opportunity for people to be part of the system. And that's basically because we're very aware in our restricted resourcing that diagnostics expertise and that surveillance network of practitioners is quite limited. And so we're trying to share as much as that openly and freely with the free tool and the free system. So in a nutshell, I'm just trying to think on the opposite side here, when you make a report, you can add up to 4 images. It turns on the lat and longs on your mobile device. It has an accuracy reading around that actual point. So like Vincent said, we can actually go back to those points in time and re-find where you took that report if we have to go back and look at it again. You can add contextual information like where were you? What was the habitat like? What did you find? How many did you find? What life stage did you find? So you can add descriptive information. You can also measure or repeat sample by having a trap or a location ID that you go back to. So you have things like photo reporting. You can go back to the same point in time, put up your camera, take a photograph, come back in another year's time, do another shot. So it's a tool that just expands the opportunity to do repeat measures, but has the flexibility to adapt it to your other projects that you might be working on. And that's sort of why it's done so well, I think, from the ground up. We've built up quite a wide audience in the public sector, but also industry sectors, because we can manage it for whatever your needs are. Okay. Part of the commitment that we have behind the MyPestGuide system is also that it's a community-wide system where the community reports that you see in the center there are made available to everyone. Okay, so these are your shared reports, and everything that you go online and have a look at, you can learn something about that organism. And that's a response that you will see from an expert. Okay, so you might learn about pests. I learn about pathogens because that's not my background. My background is more entomology, but I do learn something every time I go onto my own system and have a look at what you guys are reporting out there, which is kind of fascinating to me. We actually do a lot of communication and engagement with our industries. The hitchhikers, hidden hitchhiker, one that you see there on the bottom corner, which I can't remember which side, has the prevention of movement of pests. So we found very early on that the pipeline, people movement, machinery movement, industry to and from Chevron Barrow Island was a very good example of trying to contain the pipeline of movement of materials and movement of people. And so if we're engaging with those individuals in that industry that understand and are aware of the consequences of what they're doing, they have a much better buy-in and willingness to want to report what they see. And therefore, that's how they attempt to add value to their own systems in their work. And so on Chevron, the Chevron crew on Barrow Island allowed people to report things that were unusual. And everybody, when you sit around the lunchroom, if they see a cockroach or they see some sort of cricket, whatever, they're reporting those to their environmental officers on the island because they get added value from it. So I'm hoping that this type of system, from a public point of view, people will see that in the future as well. So using the app's pretty easy. Let's see if it works. So it's similar to, I think it was Dion showed earlier. It's a photo reporting tool. You can add up to 4 images. You can take a photo using the application, or you can put your phone on really fast and then add the attached photos later if you want to from your gallery. You can also share the images from a social media point of view. So once you've taken an image, you can go back to your reports that are saved onto your mobile device, and then you can share those to your Facebook groups or to your mates. The where and the I found bit is part of our training. We do a lot of training with school groups, universities, other NRMs, NGOs, you name it. We're no longer called the Department of Ag. So it's been a while since we updated this one. Yeah, it's easier to remember, easier to say. And so you've also find that there's a drop-down selection for a variety of other projects that now sit. We had up to 1.80 different projects that sit within the MyPestGuide reporting function, and those are self-managed. And so we have recognized biosecurity groups, we have local government councils, we have university students, we have own projects within our own department who self-manage their work, and they just want to collect some Latin long with an accuracy that they can map, that they have images that they can check against, and then they can do other things with it because of other options we've given them that opportunity and flexibility to adjust for their own project questions. And it's as simple as that. And we've tried to maintain it as a general surveillance tool, and people can use it for semi-targeted or targeted surveillance, but then often people want to ask different questions and collect different information. So we just try to keep it as simple as possible to start at that baseline and work up from there. So I get asked the question, everyone likes stats. So yes, there's lots of people who download it, lots of people who delete it and add it again, and more people that download it fresh. We have over 230,000 plus reports sitting in the reporting, just the MyPestGuide report project, not the other 80 projects. We have over 13,500 unique users now, and those are usually people who are very good at going out on a regular basis and reporting. You'll see that the progressive number of reports over time is increasing. It's taken quite a number of years to do lots of engagement for people to download it and use it. Once people started using it in kind of 17, 18, in the 18, 19 year, it sort of just took off. And I haven't promoted the application for 2 years. So the last time I promoted it was in the other room next door. And that was the development of the MyPestGuide community. So this time, November 2019, in the other room next door was the last time I did a talk, and it was actually on myrtle rust. This was the result that we had in our database at the time across the different jurisdictions. And this is the difference now, today, 10 months later. All those blue bits are all new reports that have come in. So that's showing that the other jurisdictions are on board. It's now agreed by the Plant Health Committee nationally that it's the approved general surveillance reporting tool to use across Australia. And so we do now start that promotion. And we continue on within Western Australia, helping to support our own projects and local governments to use the reporting tool to become part of that community. So lots of people also like to find out, well, how busy are we all the time? This just shows, it's an old graph, but it shows it goes up and down. And this is about behavior and motivation, and it changes all the time, and you continuously have to repeat and repeat the messaging. You do need to make it different. What I found is that if you have an event or a campaign, maybe the third or fourth time is probably the maximum you'll get out of it. If you go beyond that, you need to change it up because people get bored really fast in our social media age. And then from a diagnostics point of view, this just shows that over time we have to help with training. There's gaps in the training in diagnostics, as we all know. The level of expertise out there is variable as well. So I'm hoping that this system will help improve some of that because it allows people who might not be as expert in their area to be able to engage with other practitioners to ask for some guidance or advice on identifications. We often have that with a lot of the pest controllers. They'll try to take good photos. They sometimes get good ones, they sometimes don't. And then they'll ask us, what's this? Because they're too scared to ask their boss whether or not the pest that they're meant to be controlling is actually the pest that they're observing. And so they now use our tool to ask us, and then they go and they do the management for the diagnosed pest that they have in hand. So one thing that will help everyone here, if you do decide to use the tool, or if you want to engage others, is taking good photographs is obviously helpful for diagnostics. It makes it easier for the taxonomist at the other end, when they receive your photo, to put a species name against it. We can usually do 80 to 90% of the time we can give you a species name. That's how good well, the diagnosticians are amazing, I think, but that's how good the images are that we get through now through the system, and that's mainly because the mobile devices have improved their cameras significantly, and also people are learning how to use their cameras. Okay, so the first thing I always tell people, do not use the zoom function and do not add your flash. Get close to your subject and use lots and lots of light where you can. So most of you guys, if you've done any photography in a forest environment, forest photograph is probably the most difficult environment you can take photographs in to get something that's clear and lots of light. So this is just a reminder that there's lots of information online. So if you want to redirect your groups or your teams or your workmates to improve on how they report things to you, or if you need to send a report to me or someone else, then good photographs help. So again, this is just a really quick run through. To use the reporting tool, you want to go, once you've downloaded it off the stores, it's a free app. You use the plus sign to create a report. You can refresh your reports once you're back in the office or once you're back in a Wi-Fi range. So it was built for the Western Australia environment where you go an hour out of Perth and you have no Wi-Fi signal. So it'll download the information on your mobile device. And when you come back into Wi-Fi, you open it up and you refresh it again, and it'll send your reports to our servers, and then it'll send the response back. Does everyone get that? Lots of people don't write applications that many people develop nowadays. They just make an assumption that everyone does that, but they actually have to be built to do that. And someone has to tell the developer that's what you want your applications to do. If you can't use a mobile device, or you often have, we have a lot of elderly people still that don't really like to use their mobile devices or applications. They often do a lot of gardening, and so they'll phone our frontline desk. And often some of our frontline officers will be on the desk on the phone for 20 minutes at a time for one person's question. And so we saw that as an opportunity to go get them to make a report, get them to send an image online, maybe standardize how we respond to them and reduce that amount of time for having that feedback. So that's where this also came in. So we created the online version. It's exactly the same as the mobile version. It still provides a mapping facility, but in the back end, we can also add additional attachments for emails for traceability when we get reports of new exotic organisms. So everyone has to register with MyPestGuide online, and this is the bit I'm going to warn you. This has nothing to do with the app. This has everything to do with our department. And right now, as it's going under a restructure, we have lots of issues with online systems and authentication and checking that you're not a robot. There's lots of security things going on in the background in other people's departments as well that I'm aware of. And every time the IT groups update things on your servers and devices, they usually update security. So when people have issues with passwords or registration, it's often not to do with applications you're using. It's usually to do with checking who you are against your email that you've used. So I'm hoping everyone gets a chance to go out and view the community reports online. We do actually use the tool for anywhere in the world. We get lots of reports from all over Australia, as you can see here. And we get reports about everything: weeds, animals, we're getting aquatic organisms now that were fisheries. And we also have a lot of people, say, from India, or occasionally we'll get the odd one from China, but that's extremely rare. South America often, where they may not have as good a connection with their agricultural departments or production industries that we may have here in Australia and the US and Canada, I guess. So that sort of helps them as well. We also look at it as a pre-forecasting mechanism to pick up any exotic pests that might be on the horizon through the countries that we trade with. So we usually scan for reports that are in, say, California, because we have direct import transport lines for goods that come from that area of the US. And if we're picking up, you know, brown marmorated stink bug and other organisms, we may want to then sequester some of those goods before they come in. And so this type of thing helps us with predicting what might be coming down that management line. If only we had that I talked for earlier. So this is just the back end. So I'm just showing this as a report. The first stage is all the information that you would submit that I would see at the end if I was administrating this. We can go in, and this is where we provide host information. That host type can be either a host plant, it could be also a container, it could be a sticky trap, whichever. We could then add the information about whether or not that species is existing in Western Australia, or if it has any other status associated to that. And that's an improvement that we're working with the Commonwealth to improve our diagnostic databases. We found a way to allow the diagnosticians themselves, the taxonomists, to self-update their taxonomic information within our system that then advises the Commonwealth systems. And that's what we're trying to work on with them in the future. So this lovely organism here is a stink bug, and we often use these as inference reports. So for instance, myrtle rust, it has yellow pustules, but we already know that yellow pustules means that we're probably 2 weeks too late, that we want to catch it when it's in the red purple stages. So if you go out and you collect reports that infer something with similar symptoms, it may show presence or absence of the thing that you're looking for. So we use inference data and the statistics behind that to show area freedom for us to be able to continue to market our goods to export for overseas, to declare that we're pest free. So this is one organism that we try to infer absence of brown marmorated stink bug, and that's the exotic pest that we don't want, but this is a native stink bug, which looks extremely similar to it. So this is where we lead to where are we going to use MyPestGuide and when for myrtle rust. So the googly eyes is a leftover from the previous talks that we've had. How do you actually know when you've got myrtle rust? And the googly eyes are meant to they basically say the eyes and ears on the ground. I'm not sure if Vincent mentioned, but New Zealand also has myrtle rust. Everyone know that? So anytime you go direct flight from Perth to, say, Queenstown or Auckland, we all know what we're supposed to do before we leave. And again, when we come back, because there's a very good chance that someone that's gone tramping in New Zealand hops on the plane and comes back directly to Perth. That could be our first pickup, and that could be someone going then off to the Scarp or maybe down south to go hiking. So those are the scenarios that we should be thinking about with regards to preparedness and prevention for myrtle rust. When we start thinking about preparedness and prevention in our neck of the woods, we are dealing with a lot of exotic pest incident management. And I've highlighted where we actually have used MyPestGuide throughout that whole process of an IMT team. So I'm not sure who here has experienced any of that yet, but these are the pillars of each of the teams and how they're built and how they come together when you run an incident. So right now we have Queensland fruit fly. We've just picked up Russian weed aphid down in Esperance. We've had citrus canker up north. cucumber mosaic virus up in Carnarvon area, fall armyworm, now down in Geraldton. So each one of those pests actually have a small group of people who are under an incident management team set up like this. And they at some point have either used MyPestGuide to engage with the public, to give them more data, to delineate or contain their observations of where they find these organisms. So this is just touching base on what Vincent said earlier, myrtle rust. You can take lots of images. Again, it's the images that we want to get before it turns into yellow pustules, because then we actually have a chance of potentially containing it if we're lucky. The MyPestGuide communications, this is a slide that no one's supposed to read. Basically, it's just to remind me that it's meant to bring the community together, to empower them and give them an opportunity to get involved and give them something to do when they feel they can't have any control over the situation whatsoever. Anybody can go out into their garden and make a report, okay? So I'm just gonna let you guys know that Vincent said the myrtle rustling will have a huge impact on WA, and those are the industries affected. And we do have support from the National Biosecurity Community Engagement Network if you want to improve your communications. And you can come out with really cool ways to communicate to your industry. And the tool will help you do that with regards to the statistics that you might need to help with the data. And a reminder that this year, you can tap into the Biosecurity Blitz, which is our annual event that allows you to communicate those messages and use the same reporting tool to standardize the data that we can send back to you guys. And this just shows evidence that when you do that communication, you do have an impact. Okay, so it's just ticking along, and when you run a campaign, you will get the public involved, and they will send you more information about what you need to do in order to better manage your pest species that we've all got to deal with. So I'm just gonna leave, those are all the other ones. Coming up soon, we have a national forest tool that we're developing. So I'm guessing that might be quite useful for you guys in the future. So thank you. Any questions? Probably running very late now today, aren't we?
But Tilo and I have some setup to do. So
Okay,
if you
cool.
and Vincent take that and answer questions. And sorry.